is related to uncovering and releasing my limiting beliefs.
More or less, yes. More or less, that's the idea. You're letting go of energies that you have picked up that do translate as belief systems. But remember, there are some energies that have been picked up that you don't necessarily have language for. Because remember, belief systems really are something that are created once the ego's developed, yes?
Mm-hmm.
No ego, no belief system. There are energies that have been inherited genetically, ancestrally, karmically, whatever you wish to say, pre-egoic development. In other words, you don't necessarily have belief systems that align with those things. So that's where energetic practices can be quite useful, because you are working with techniques that are not based in story. They're not based in narrative. They're not based in mind. They're based on energy, which means you can detoxify energies that do not necessarily have corresponding belief systems associated with them. So in general, whenever you are detoxifying a negative belief, you're really just detoxifying energy that translates as a belief. But not all energies have corresponding human belief systems behind them. Does that make sense?
Yes. What's the best exercise for releasing the energy I don't even know how to name? There's ancestral or genetic.
Really, there's all types of practices that can be done. The magical techniques you have are quite useful for that. Breath work is quite useful for that. Qigong is quite useful for that. Full body shaking is also a very useful technique for letting go of those energies. Doing that on the earth barefoot is also quite useful.
And I don't even need to like have in my mind what I'm letting go of.
You don't even need to conceptualize it. Just have the intention that you're releasing negative energy.
Okay.
Yes, that's really all you need to do. Because there, again, are some energies you don't have a personal belief about. You don't have a personal narrative about, because they're not necessarily of you. They are things that have been inherited. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yes, yes. So one of the things we remind you of is that all energies can be alchemized. They can be transformed. So you recall the inner smile practice? You're aware of this process? All right. Yes. So whenever you're dealing with a negative emotion, and let's say it's a negative emotion where you're not really able to detect a narrative around it, the idea is to first just neutrally observe that negative emotion and sort of identify what it is. Give it a tag, give it a label. Is this anger? Is this sadness? Is this jealousy? Is this desire? Is this craving? Just sort of tag it with something.
Okay.
Once you've tagged it with something, now you are beginning to process it. There's the idea of naming something to claim it. So give it some type of tag, give it some type of label, and just breathe into it. Just notice it, not trying to change it, just sort of experiencing it, feeling it. So the idea is the first step is identify what it is, feel it. The second step is to then inner smile to that feeling. Think of the most blissful, loving state you can and project it into the feeling. And begin to breathe into this union of opposites, the negative and the positive, merging them with your breath. That's step 2. Step 3 is to then imagine what is the opposite sensation, or what is the sensation I would like for this to turn into. So for example, if you are experiencing craving, you could turn the craving using the smile into fulfillment. Yep. If the energy is jealousy, using the smile, you can transform the jealousy into satisfaction. So on and so forth. So the idea is the smile and the breath allow for you to transform the negative feeling. And this is a way you can actually begin to alchemize the negativity without having to get into the psychological narrative about what it is and why it's there. That stuff can be useful to get into, but it also sort of becomes a bardo people get stuck in. It becomes sort of a mental mouse maze that people roam in endlessly. So you can skip that step. Just go right into the pure transformation of these things into the qualities that you prefer to experience. The more you practice this, the easier it will become, and you can start to do it on the spot.
That sounds like a superpower. Yeah.
Yes, yes. The more you practice that technique, the inner smile, the stronger this superpower will be. So always keep that in mind.
Okay. I like that.